everybody. This is Sherry Grenska, and welcome to the Horse Barn Management Show. Yay! We're live here every Monday at 6:30. If you're new joining us, we're glad you're here. Let us know where you're from. Type it in, and it's kind of cool. We've had people from Australia, from Canada, and from all over the U.S. So let us know where you're from. If you have never watched these before, we have all kinds of topics we talk about. Tonight is Open Topic Monday, and you can ask any questions you have about horse barn management, and I will try my hardest to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you it. I'll just say, I'll find out. Okay, first of all, I want to tell you we have two announcements. One of them, if you haven't heard, especially if you're new, Pro Barn Management, which puts on this show every Monday night, and myself, Sherry Grenska, we're doing a 2-day live, well, it's live because it's at my farm. It is live! I'm not dead, it's live. At Vinland Stables, a 2-day barn management workshop here. If I could tell you anything, whether you've been in the business for a long time, whether you're starting out, whether you're building, come to this. We only have 20 spaces available. We talk about everything, and it doesn't matter if you're boarding 4 horses or you're boarding 40. The problems still arise in all of them. And I had someone email me this week, and she was asking about the 2-day workshop, and she said that they are doing good financially, but they're having a lot of problems with clients and making changes, and she goes, do I address that? And I do, because every single part of what you do with your business affects your clients. And you're going to have some clients that love the changes. You're going to have some clients who boldly give you their opinions on your changes. And you're going to have clients that just leave. It affects your finances, and we navigate through all that. It could be the hay you're feeding, it could be turnout, the amount of time you turn out, it could be trainers, it could be anything under the sun. Herd management, barn hours. So if you have 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, June 12th and 13th, I encourage you to come. You will not regret it. You'll be meeting people from all over and talking about everything to make your barn financially fit, make it sound, make it run like a well-oiled machine. And if you go on probarnmanagement.com, the flyer is on there. Also on Facebook, it's on there. It tells you all the details, what we talk about, the price. We feed you well. We feed you both days really well, so you'll have plenty of food. And you're going to spend 2 days here at our place, and it's a fun time. Every single time we do it, it's just so much fun to meet other people from all over and hear about your businesses and try to help you navigate and make your horse boarding stable all that it can be. So check it out. Okay, the next big announcement that I'm super excited about, drum roll. The Horse Barn Management Show, we have our very first guest speaker coming next Monday night, May 3rd. Ooh, and what I'm really super excited about is Debbie Treadwell. That is her name. She's from Minnesota. She's going to be live on here with me. She's an equine insurance business specialist. That's what she does. Their family has been in it for many, many years. We got connected a couple weeks ago, and I asked her, I said, hey, you want to be on our show? And she said, yeah, she's going to do it. So next Monday night, you can ask away any kind of business question you have as far as running your business and insurance, liability insurance, care, custody, control insurance, all of it. She's going to be here. If you have questions ahead of time, send them to probarnmanagement.com, email me, and we will read them off. If you want to ask them during the show, she will answer them. It's going to be our very first guest, and it's going to be a fun hour of talking about insurance, and it's really important. Probably one of the most important parts of your business. So don't miss next Monday night the 3rd. Tongue-tied. Okay. So anyways, we have Open Topic Monday. And I wanted to, first of all, I want you to ask any questions you have. I have a whole slew of questions here But I wanted to talk a little bit about spring vaccinations because last week we did them at our barn. And I often get asked, well, how do we do them? What does it look like? What are some of the problems that come up with spring vaccinations when you have a boarding stable? So I thought, well, I'll kind of talk about it a little bit. And the interesting part is it's going to be a little bit different no matter where you are in the country, actually where you are in the world, all over. It's going to be a little bit different depending on what your veterinarians are recommending for that area. So we're in Wisconsin. It might be a little bit different if you're down in Arizona or someplace like that. But anyways, I wanted to talk about a little bit how do you keep it organized when you're doing spring vaccinations for a large number of horses, and trying to make sure everybody is on board with how you want to do it. And the first thing is, I'm going to be really honest and tell you that it's a little bit more complicated than it used to be, because we have people, and they're all over. They're not just at our barn, but a lot of people have different opinions on vaccinations, and there's a lot more people out there that want to try to go as natural as possible, go the holistic route, try not to vaccinate their horses. And as a barn owner and barn manager, you're going to have to decide how you're going to deal with that at your barn. Um, in a perfect world, a utopian, great world, it would be great not to have to vaccinate the horses. But the reality is they get sick, they get diseases, they can get all kinds of stuff, and they can spread it to other horses. And unless you have your horse in your backyard all by itself, a boarding stable is probably one of the most high risk areas to be, because you have horses coming and going, and they're going to shows, they're going here, they're going there. So it's kind of important. The way I do it at our barn, Vinland Stables, is I don't give our clients a choice. I tell them what vaccinations the horses have to have, and some of it will be age dependent. For our very, very, very senior horses, it has to be vet approved, meaning that I talk to the vets to find out if, for some of our really old horses, if we can skip some of the shots that they're starting to really have reactions to. That's important. And so I work with the veterinarians that come to our barn and with the client, but you're going to have to decide what you want for shots. And some barns make every horse have it no matter what. Some don't care. Some will let you do whatever you want. Some don't vaccinate at all. And you're going to have to, as a boarder, if you are a horse owner, you're going to have to be very aware of the stable that you're going to, and what they offer, because you want to make sure your horse is protected. As far as the barn owner and manager, the more consistency you have in it and keeping everybody the same, the easier your job's going to be all the way around. So, like I said, with our stable, we just had them last week, and what I did is I typed out the list of the vet recommended shots that were the core vaccines for this area in Wisconsin, and everybody had to have them. We have a few horses that have reactions to them, so we split the shots up, and some of the horses, we had a couple horses we give Banamine to before the shot, and then they'll get it the next day if they have reactions. But it's kind of like people. Some people have reactions to, children, they'll have a reaction to a vaccine or a shot. And the same with horses. You'll get a horse that maybe will struggle for a couple days due to it. So we have a couple horses that split the vaccines up. I don't mind that at all. If the owner wants to do that, that's perfect, as long as it gets done. And it's kind of, I try to keep it really simple. The day we do spring shots, the clinic that comes to our barn, I'm out there all day. I don't charge to hold horses for that day, and I kind of help them, since the vets usually don't know all the horses. And if there's a difficult horse, or a horse that has special circumstances around them, um, a lot of the owners are working, so they can't be out. So I will be there for them on this day, and it goes really smoothly. It's a long day, but it goes real smooth. And then if some of the owners come out, they take care of their own horses, and it works really great like that. I think the biggest thing is you have to decide what kind of shots you're going to recommend, and you can't say yes to one person and no to another, because if you do, you're going to end up with problems unless it's a medical issue. So I am a believer that if the horse has some kind of medical issue, then as long as the vet's approving it, we can bypass maybe a vaccine if we have to, or if they're going to give it at a different time. I'm okay with that, but it has to be vet approved. And I think people get themselves in a mess because they either try to be too extreme one way, or they just kind of let it be a free-for-all, and then they have problems the other way. So if you have any questions on spring vaccines, it's kind of important. One of the biggest things is, what if you have a client who doesn't want their horse to be vaccinated? I've dealt with that a couple times over the years where people don't want their horses vaccinated, and this is where it can be tough. But you have to decide. I just tell them they have to board at our barn, and it's kind of black and white. And if they want to board here, they have to be vaccinated. They're animals, and things happen. If they don't like that, then they'll go to another stable where they don't have to do it. So something really to think about when you're doing spring vaccinations. It just happens every year, and fall will be coming. We'll be doing shots again, but I just wanted to talk about that. Any questions on spring vaccinations? Okay. That seems like a pretty easy one, but we just did that. It's always cold when we do that too.
We do have a question, just not on that topic.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and.
Let me find it. Many duties come with caring for horses. How do you decide what is a normal part of caring for horses as opposed to an extra?
You can decide. That's the beauty of it. When you have your own business, boarding horses, you get to decide what you want as part of the normal care. So when someone says full service boarding, honestly, every barn I've been to, and I do a lot of consulting at stables, every one of them is different, and they all call themselves full service. So when we first opened up, going on 16 years ago, we offered everything in board. We offered blanketing. We would do cold hosing, a lot of stuff we would do, and I didn't charge anything for it. I realized really quickly how time consuming that was. So as time went on, I started realizing I needed to have a price sheet that reflected those services and not include it in the board, because I was losing money. It was a lot of hours of extra work, and I really wasn't getting paid for it. And my board rate was too low. So deciding what you want for special services, I'll tell you what we do, but it does by no means means you have to do it this way. What we include with board is turnout 7 days a week, weather permitting, except holidays. We clean 6 days a week. We feed twice a day, and we'll feed whatever amount of hay your horse needs to either to sustain their weight, or if you're trying to put on weight. We don't include grain, which is really, I'm probably one of the unique barns that doesn't include grain. Most barns do include it. I don't. It's an extra. We walk the horses. We hand walk them out, and we hand walk them back in every day. So those are some of our regular services that we offer for full board. Topping off the water buckets, cleaning the stalls, all that stuff. But there's a lot of barns out there that offer a bigger package of stuff. I just chose not to offer everything under the sun in my board package, because if I did, I would have to raise my board up a lot higher, maybe even $200 higher a month. And I know that my clientele, a lot of them, it would be too much for them, and I don't want to lose who I have, and a lot of them wouldn't even use the services that I would be including. We have half the barn doesn't even blanket, and a lot of them come out and do their own everything, whatever they want done. So I found it easier and financially better for me to offer the standard care for the horse: hay, water, bedding, turnout, um, cleaning the stalls, all that. And for me also to make sure the horse is healthy, doing good. And then all the other things like holding fee for the vet or farrier, um, maybe deworming, um, stuff like that, I would charge an extra fee for. If I had to walk the horse or cold hose them because they got hurt, I would charge a fee for that. And I have a price sheet. So honestly, I would probably decide what kind of barn you want, and then from there you can work all that in. And that's why it's so important. I think when you are deciding to board horses, it's super important to decide what kind of barn you want. Because if you have an upper end barn where you're going to be offering, maybe you're going to have a heated barn, maybe you're going to have, you're going to offer a lot more services. Your clientele might be a clientele that's, competing. They're traveling all over. Your clientele might want you to do a lot more stuff, and the price of your board needs to reflect that so you're not losing money. Because no matter what, even if you have, it doesn't matter if you have horses that are trail horses, people are riding for fun, maybe casual showing, or you have horses that are training for Grand Prix, or they're, whatever higher up kind of competition. It's still a horse, and they still poop. They still have to have their stalls cleaned. You still have to walk them out. You might have a lot more private turnout with those higher end competition horses. That means there's water that is involved for that private turnout. So I want you to think all that really through. And I don't know if you, I don't think I've showed this in a couple weeks, but I'm gonna put in my plug right now. If you haven't checked out my book, A Step-by-Step Guide to Running a Successful Horse Boarding Business, check it out. I talk about all this in detail in there, and it really gets you to focus on what kind of barn you want, and then from there you can decide what you're going to offer for services. You can find it on probarnmanagement.com, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. So I hope that answers your question as far as what kind of services. Okay.
Which holidays do you observe for skipping turnout?
Mother's Day. Just kidding. Can I do that for Mother's Day? Mother's Day. Yeah, I don't even want to cook on Mother's Day. We don't turn out for Christmas. Well, okay, so also you got to remember where we live, because we're in Wisconsin, so we get kind of bad weather in the wintertime. Christmas, New Year's Day, and Thanksgiving, we don't turn the horses out. I have it though in my, when I give a new boarder, when they come to my barn and I give them all the information, I actually have included in that list Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day. I have those dates also on there, but that's because I want the option not to turn the horses out if I choose to, because my husband and I and our family are doing something. But I think the last few years on Memorial Day and 4th of July, if the weather's good, we go ahead and turn all the horses out because it's easier on us. The stalls are less dirty the next day when we have to clean. And we don't clean on Sundays, and it just makes it easier. The horses are better behaved. They're not, all hyper and nuts the next day. So on those holidays we do. We've always kept them in on Christmas and January 1st, New Year's Day, Memorial Day, not Memorial Day, Thanksgiving Day, and Easter. So I forgot about January 1st. The thing is, what I do here is I have a great group of boarders, and they have the option, if they want to come out here in the morning, they can turn their horse out into their paddock that they normally go in for the day, but they have to bring them back in. So I am not bringing their horse back in. So a lot of people will come out here in the morning, like at 9, turn their horse out for the day on Christmas Day or January 1st, New Year's Day, Easter Sunday, and then they'll come back or they'll tag team with someone else whose horses are out and they'll bring the horses back in. So they'll do that. And I have done that for years now, and it works out great. They don't mind. They do it. They don't seem to have a problem with it. I've never lost a boarder over it. I have gone to barns where I've talked to the barn owner and they're stressed and they feel overwhelmed and they have kids and they feel like they just never get a break. And I said, you know what, it's a holiday. You don't have to turn the horses out. You don't have to clean the stalls, and it's okay. If someone's going to leave your barn because you don't clean a stall on Christmas Day, their horse's stall, then let them leave and find someone who's going to be happy to be there. I've never had anyone leave our barn because we don't clean the stalls on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving Day, and those days could be any day of the week. So, you have to decide what you want. And for me, what was the most important thing was to make sure I had my sanity and my family came first. And it's a holiday and I want to celebrate it. And you know what? The horses are fine if they're going to be in their stall for a day. And if someone wants to put them out, they can. So that's how I do it here. We've done it for years like that. It works fantastic. It's not a problem. And I'm really a big advocate of doing it so that you have your family time and a little bit of time to rest on those holidays, because holidays are busy as it is, and then you're trying to do chores on top of it. So that's my thought on it. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, I'm going to start. I had a lot of questions come in this week, and I'm gonna go through. If you have anything, just pop on in. Okay, this one was an interesting one. I have a barn owner question for you. I have a barn, a very large barn. I keep it very organized and I love my barn. Anyways, I have a person who has boarded at our stable for a long time and has an extremely old horse, a 30-year-old horse. And the horse is starting to have neurological issues and has had them for a couple weeks. Or I should say longer than that, probably a couple months. And the horse has also been diagnosed with stuff. Well, the problem is, as the neurological symptoms are getting worse, the horse has started falling. And it's fallen in the stall, it's fallen outside, and it's becoming a safety issue. And it's getting to the point where people are, they're worried for the employees and stuff. I'm kind of skimming through it because it's kind of long. And, basically the question is they want to know, at what point do you say you can't deal with the horse anymore when the needs are that big? I guess it's broken here. She said that it broke, it's done a lot of damage to the stalls. It's done damages to the fencing outside because it just falls over. She also asked me, when is it time to maybe try to suggest that the horse needs to be put down? It's a tough situation because it is so hard when the owner of the horse is not ready to let the horse go, but you know that the horse is really going downhill fast. And, I personally, if I have a horse that's just falling over because of neurological issues, that is a safety issue. And if they're not going to put the horse down and there's nothing at that point to do because the horse is 30, I think at that point, even with getting the vets involved, you have every right to ask them to move their horse if they're not gonna do anything about it. The sad thing is there's not a good answer, because no matter what, there's going to be hurt feelings. There's going to be, this person, their horse is not doing well. You as the barn owner are trying to care for the horse who is having major neurological issues. And everyone's going to have a different opinion on what to do. I think the big thing when you have a barn is so that the drama doesn't raise up in the barn, because no matter what, you're going to have people on both sides of the spectrum trying to give their opinion on what to do with an animal that is having serious problems. And at that age, at 30, the horse is old, and it's not going to get better that way. And especially if the vets have come in, it's not an easy answer, and I'll tell you, boy, it makes you feel sick inside because you walk in the house and think, oh my gosh, am I overreacting? Am I doing this the wrong way? How do I deal with this? There comes a point in time where you have to say enough's enough if it is, and especially if it's a safety issue. And you might have to have a heart to heart with the owner and say it's time to either say goodbye, and have them move the horse, or have them talk to the vet and see, if it's time to say goodbye to the horse. It is not easy. I've had something not that extreme, but happened a few years ago with a great old horse that was here a few years ago, and it was time to put him down, and it was hard. It's kind of like our dogs. Sometimes we keep them alive a little bit too long. Oh, I know I've done that with one of my dogs, and because you keep thinking they have good days and bad days. They have a few good days, and you say, "Oh, they're doing better," and then they take another step really down, and it's coming. It's just you prolong it. But if you have a horse that's falling all the time because of neurological issues, then definitely I would get the vets involved, and it might be time to say they have to move the horse if it's a safety issue, especially if the horse is falling and breaking the stall and stuff like that. Not, I hope it never happens to anybody, but that kind of happens when you have senior horses, and things just kind of go awry. So just something to think about. It's not easy, but you do have every right to ask them to move the horse if you feel it's a safety issue at this point. It doesn't mean you're a bad person at all. It doesn't mean you're a bad barn manager, a bad owner. It's just, it's a big animal, and if safety is huge and the horse is suffering and the owner doesn't want to do anything, then you might need to move on. So just something to think about on that. And you're not overreacting. That is a great question. It's a very real question and a really real part of boarding. Okay. Okay. This one it says, "Hi Sherry, a question for your next pro barn management on Monday, if time allows." It's a question about blanketing. This time of year, when we get some warm days and some cold days, and blankets are on and off, and on and off, and on and off, it's enough to drive you to drink. Oh, I like that. No, that's funny. Yes. And what's your cutoff for temperatures and wind gusts when blankets are put on and when blankets are taken off? The trainer I work for likes his horses blanketed and left on, and sometimes I feel like the blankets, it's too warm. We don't see eye to eye on when the blankets should come on, when they should go off. And sometimes he thinks it's chilly, and I think the horses are fine. It's just a very stressful time. How do you handle springtime with blanketing, with horses, and all that? I have read most horses, in general, like around 40 degrees. And also, how many hours do your horses stay outside? I prefer to have my horses with an in-out stall or run-in shed, and they are outside most of the time. I don't really like having horses stalled too much. Thank you. So you know what? Okay, I was just talking to my husband. We were doing chores this morning, and well, we were in the house, and we were supposed to have like 35-mile-an-hour wind gust and a high of like, I don't know, was it like a high of 40 today or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. It sucked. I'm like, the springtime here in Wisconsin kind of sucks. It just does. Tomorrow I think we're supposed to have like 65.
Yeah.
So we go like we had snow a few days ago, then we'll shoot up to 55, and then we'll shoot down, and then we go back up to 65. It is so hard when you're dealing with horses and blanketing, and I think it's hard on everybody. It's hard on the animals. They're shedding out. Some of them are blanketed still. Some people are pulling blankets. I have had situations where, not this year so much, but I have had situations where I've had someone pull the blankets too soon on a thoroughbred, and or an appendix quarter. I guess the horse was an appendix quarter horse. Well, I've had it happen a couple times, where they don't have hardly any hair, and the horse was shivering outside because it was too cold out. The temps had just, because we had a few warm days, so the person took the blanket home. Well, then we put the horses out, and the horse was shivering. I had to bring the horse in, put one of my blankets on the horse. This was a few years ago. I had to call them and tell her, bring back the blankets. Winter's not over. So it is a kind of a hard time. As far as temperature, it kind of depends on the breed of the horse. Your thoroughbreds. I own a thoroughbred. Well, my daughter does, and she's very thin-skinned, and she gets cold easy. So she wears a blanket a lot longer, where some of the other horses, you can pull the blanket sooner, and they are hardy. They handle it. They fly right through it, and not a problem. Um, it also depends on your turnout and how often, if you're turning the horses out no matter what the weather is. I don't mind the wind when it's warm. I mean, when I say it's not warm, but like today it was around 40, but it was windy, but the horses did okay. And I think it got up to the mid 40s, and they did okay. If it would have been really cold, we would have kept them in because it was so windy. Um, so every day is a challenge. Every day I'm looking at the weather. My husband's looking at the weather. For me, it's more about the rain. Um, when the temps are cold, we don't want the horses to get chilled, wet and chilled, especially this time of year. Um, we don't have a heated barn, so it makes it a little easier. If you have a heated barn you're working at, then you're going to be blanketing a lot more, which means the horses are coming into a much warmer temperature. When they go out, they're going to be wearing blankets a lot longer. When you don't have a heated barn, you can pull them a little bit faster, and the horses adapt a little bit faster. I can't give you exact temperature. I know today the horses love this cooler weather. At first they were running around like nuts this morning and just playing and bucking and kicking, and they love it when it's cool like that. Even though I was cold and had a winter coat on, they love it. And I didn't put any blankets on, and they were fine. Every one of them was fine. So it depends on the horses that you have. They definitely do better when they're a little cooler than when they're too hot in the blanket. And so I don't want to give you an exact temperature on that either, because like my thoroughbred, we have three blankets for her: a sheet, a lightweight sheet, a medium, and a heavyweight. If you have boarders who only have maybe two blankets, you don't have the option to blanket all the way down to the lighter, the cooler temps. And it really depends a lot, like I said, on the breed of the horse. The thoroughbreds get, they might get colder if they don't have a lot of hair, but we have a couple warm bloods, and boy, they're hardy. We have a Frisian, hardy. So it depends. There's a lot of factors that go into it. The thing is, ultimately, if you're working for a trainer, you have to kind of do what they say because they're the boss and they're paying you. You don't really have an option in that. If you're not happy with how they do it, then there's not much you can do except possibly look for a different job where you are thinking on the same lines as far as horse care and turnout as the barn manager and the trainers. And so there's a lot that goes into the dynamics there. Um, our horses, they go out. They're out by 7 in the morning, and the last one was brought in at 5 o'clock tonight. We start bringing them at 4 o'clock now that the days are getting longer. So they're outside all day if the weather's good. If the weather's not good, then we'll bring them in earlier, or they may not go out at all. It just depends on what the weather is and if we're going to get rain, because we don't have shelters out in those paddocks for our horses in our main barn. They go out and they're open paddocks. There's no shelters out there. Um, and it says here you would prefer to have your horses in an InOut stall or run-in shed, as they are to go outside most of the time. It depends on the stable and how it's set up. A lot of barns have those where they have the stall and then they can go out into a run-in and go back and forth and have the choice. And I think it just depends on what you want for a boarding stable and have for that. And for us, we don't have that. The horses, they go out, and so we control when they go out and when they come in, just depending on the weather. And I do watch to make sure that in this time of year, I don't have a horse that all of a sudden has the chills But usually it's more when the temps drop or we get that rainy kind of wet weather, and then they start to get cold. Then we bring them in because we know I don't want a horse getting sick. And so I hope that answers your question. And do you have anything, Trish?
I do.
Okay.
Do you think it is fair to charge boarders for monthly horse trailer storage? Right now, nobody pays extra, but many more boarders do not have a trailer and they do not pay any less for board. And I also want to require license plates and no flat tires because a couple of the trailers do not even look roadworthy.
Wow. Okay. So I have been to barns where they charge a fee for trailer parking, and I've been to barns that don't. And it's definitely something that you can do. I don't charge a fee for it. I do assign spots to our boarders that have trailers. There is no switching spots. You know, there is no um, if you don't want drama, then you tell everybody this is where your parking spot is and that's it. Because when we first opened, what we were doing is people would leave, like go to a 2-day show or be gone for 3 days to a show. And when they came back, someone had moved into their spot because they liked their spot better. And then I had to deal with clients who were upset with each other because they took their spot. So I nipped that right away. So I give assigned spots and I tell them where they're going to park. They don't just get to take someone's spot. And I think, what was the other part of that, Trish? I don't charge.
Required license plates and no flat tires.
Well, the flat. I don't know about the flat. I don't know how you. I mean, I don't know of anybody who would just let their trailer sit there with a flat tire. I don't even know how to answer that. How do you answer that? Because usually people want to fix theirs so they don't have a flat tire in case they need to use it. So I don't know what to tell you on that with the flat tire. But license plate. Honestly, I don't pay attention to what people are doing with their trailers, and if they're going to drive without a license plate and get pulled over and get ticketed, that's on them. I don't have a problem with that. I'm more concerned about we're not having drama with trailer parking, so I feel that the best way to do that is to have them park in an assigned spot. Um, Now, if you're going to charge for parking, you can do that, and you can charge for it. It's your business. You can really charge for whatever you want. And I did go to one barn a couple years ago, and I think they charged like $25 a month for parking, you know, and everyone paid it. And you can do that. I just haven't felt the need to do that, and I'm okay with that. But it definitely, if you're finding it becoming a hassle, um, or definitely do it. You have every right. It's your business. So I hope that answers your question on trailer parking. Okay, any questions? Okay. Let's see here. So, uh, okay. Hi. I am from, this is from New Hampshire. I've been wanting to ask this for a while. I'm looking to open a barn for boarding and either hire a trainer instructor or have a trainer instructor rent certain amount of stalls. Which is better? If I hire a trainer instructor, it would be a live on. How do I figure a pay rate? Letting boarders use their own, is that a good plan? Gosh, I've seen it every way, and honestly, you can do it however you want, but part of it you need to think about is the insurance. So the way I do it is we have 5 trainers that come to our barn throughout the week at different times. They are not hired by me at all. They are independent contractors, so they have to have their own trainer's liability insurance. And that is really important. I have also been to barns where the trainers were employed by the stable, and that meant that they got a paycheck from the barn owner, and the barn owner carried the liability insurance. I did not want to do it that way, and I didn't want to hassle with that, and it was just a lot more work, and I just felt like I just wanted to keep that part separate. So all the trainers that come in and out of our barn, they they're independent. I don't actually make any money off them. I'm fine with that, except if they were to give lessons to outside people who don't board at our barn, then I would charge a fee. But for the boarders that are at the barn and are taking just lessons on their horses that are here at the barn, I don't charge a fee because I feel like they are helping me. They're helping them grow in their horsemanship, and they also take care of a lot of things that I probably might have to be part of, and it just, my day would get even busier. And the trainers, they really help keep the barn running really nice and efficient as far as the boarders and the horses and safety issues and all this stuff. It all goes hand in hand. So I find them as an asset, and I don't feel like I need to charge them to work out of here. But if they are bringing in clients outside that are coming in, then yes, I do charge them for that, but just not the actual boarders that are here. Now, how do you figure out a fair pay rate if you're going to have them, live on your property? I don't know how to even answer that because I personally, I know of a couple barns in the area, but I don't know what they charge, where they have trainers that live like above the barn, and they're kind of like a trainer slash barn manager. So they do more than just training. I think for you, it would depend on what you're going to have for a living area and what they're going to be doing as far as their job. Are they just training? Are they going to be managing, doing a lot of other stuff? And I would probably try to talk to some other barns that do that, and find out what in your area, what they pay. Because here I know a couple places where they live like above, but they're also kind of like the barn manager, so they're a trainer slash barn manager, so they do a lot of other stuff. So that's a little bit different setup. And as far as a trainer or instructor having to rent a certain amount of stalls, I guess the couple ways that I would look at it is, you can do that. We've had trainers come and they've had like 5 stalls, and they use those for clients, and it can work out good. With the situation I was in is that the trainer had a lot of young horses coming in, and these young horses were just being broke out, and they were coming for like 60 days. So I had a lot of horses coming and going, and I got to the point after a couple of years that I didn't like that anymore, because even though she was taking care of the training part of it, I was dealing with all the herd management and everything else that had to do with the border. And it was a lot of transition of people. And it was a lot of transition of horses and herds. And I found it to be a lot more work. And I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And that was my own personal thing. And that was how she was set up for her business. Now, you might have a trainer who doesn't break out horses, train young horses. They might just have a lot of clients. And you can do that. But you have to realize that even if they are their client and they're boarding at your barn, the owner of the horse, you're still responsible to the owner of the horse. And so there still needs to be the boarding contract between you and the owner of the horse. The trainer may have a contract too, but if they're on your property and you're feeding the horse and you're doing all the other herd management stuff and turnout and all that, you have to make sure you have that right. The thing about trainers is you can rent out a block of stalls to them, and just be careful and be aware that if that trainer and you have a disagreement or a falling out, or they want to move to a new place for a different reason, whatever the situation is, if they leave, they could be taking a lot of stalls with you, and you might want to have in your contract with the trainer that they have to give maybe a 6-month notice or a 4-month notice, um, or even a 2-month notice, depending on how many stalls. Because unless you're financially really together and you're not, you have a lot of money saved up, are you able to take that kind of hit financially if a trainer leaves and all those horses go with them? To give you a perfect example that happened to us a few years ago, and when the trainer had left, we had 17 horses leave with us, and these were all this trainer's clients and training stalls. And it worked out good for us because I had surgery, and we ended up having the stalls empty for 3 months, and it was a really welcome break, and it was at the perfect time, so it all worked out really well. But that was a lot of money. You think of 17 horses, that's massive amount of chunk of money that now I have to fill every one of those stalls. And, can a lot of people handle that? So you want to think of that really well. I did have another trainer when we first built. He came here. He wanted to rent like half our barn. It's 27 stalls, and he wanted like 17. And I was young and naive. I couldn't think ahead to think, wow, what would happen if something went wrong? Well, it turned out it wouldn't have been a good fit for him, and he didn't end up renting the stalls. And now looking back, I was so glad he didn't, because I would have been stuck if he would have left with all those horses when we first opened. If something would have happened, it's hard to fill 17 stalls just like that. So you just want to think about all the scenarios and make sure that no matter what, you're the one that has the skin in the game. It's your business. You want to make sure you have control of the situation, and you have contracts with these trainers, with whoever is using your facility and renting stalls, or bringing in clients, because ultimately at the end of the day, the trainer is not losing money if they leave, but you're going to lose money if you have those empty stalls and you don't have someone to fill them. So you just always want to protect yourself, and just be aware of that. Okay, so that was a good question. I'm going to read here. Okay. Do you require a 30-day notice, and is it always at the first of the month? So the way I do it, and again, I've seen it done a couple ways, is I do it 30 days out from whenever someone gives a 30-day notice. So if someone gives a notice on the 15th, then it would be to 30 days out to the next 15th, of January 15th to February 15th. I do it like that. Some barns make it always on the 1st. And I just have never done it that way. I just feel that if someone's going to leave for some reason and they're giving their notice, and they want to leave and it's the 5th, and they have to wait all the way to the 1st, then they have to give another 30 days. It's a long time, especially if things kind of go sour between you and a boarder, and it's time to part ways. So I let them give a notice whenever they want. If it's on the 8th or the 16th, whenever they want to, it's all good. And I just count it out 30 days from there. And so if it goes into the next month, then I just prorate it on the invoice, and they have to pay me before they can move the horse. They have to pay me on the 1st for that 2 weeks or 1 week, whatever amount of days they're there extra. It works out really well. And it's just not a problem. So, okay. I don't even know what time it is, Trish.
It's 7:19.
Okay. So we have a little bit more time. This is a good question. I've been asked this a lot over the years. If a boarder wants to take their horse to a trainer at a different barn for a couple of months of training, should they get a discount on their board while the horse is gone? And some of you might not like my answer. Trish already knows what I'm going to say. See, I don't give a discount at all. I don't. I charge the full board that they pay. this regular standard care board, they pay the full price. And I know barns that will discount things out. It gets kind of crazy. I just don't. I kind of treat the stall and the board. I treat it all kind of like you have an apartment, and you if you rent an apartment and your utilities are included, and you choose to go on vacation for 2 months, and you still have to pay rent on that apartment, and you still have to pay all the other, your phone bill, all those utilities, everything all has to be paid. And I do the same thing. So if we've had people take their horse out to Florida for the winter and they pay full board while the horse is gone. We've had people horse shopping for another horse and they have an empty stall because they sold a horse and they still have to pay full board. Do they like it? I know they don't. No one does. I wouldn't either, but that's just the way we do it. And I just feel like it's a way to run a business. They still have to pay for that stall that I'm holding. I can't lose money just because they're not there. Now, some people will argue and say, well, the horse isn't eating any hay and they're not using any bedding, so you should get a discount. And you could say that. I don't do that. I just don't. It would be almost kind of like horses that go to horse shows. They use more hay when they go to horse shows, and I don't charge them any extra for it. I have big horses that eat a lot more hay. I don't charge them more. I have ponies in my barn that are in stalls. They pay the same as the big horses. You could start finding different price ranges for everything, and some people try to do that, and your life becomes really complicated really quick, and it just gets kind of maddening when you have a horse that someone says, well, it's a senior horse and they don't hardly eat the hay anymore because they're on a mash or something. I'd like a discount. I mean, no matter what, there's always going to be someone that has a different thought about it. And I just feel, myself personally, I just say keep it even across the board. So yeah, if a horse goes to training, no matter where they go, they pay for the stall. And it works out really good. It hasn't been a problem ever. So I hope that answers that question. And okay, this one is how many horses in a herd is recommended and how many is too many? Size recommendations, please. Um, well, that's a good question. I always look at it from with the client in mind. So our biggest herd is 6 horses, and we have a lot of herds that are like 4 horses or 3 horses, 5 horses. Um, I've been to a lot of stables where we have a lot of paddocks, and what they'll do is they'll make 2 huge paddocks and put 15 horses in a paddock. And thing is, it sounds like when you think about it, it sounds, oh, that'll be easy. They're just in 2 paddocks, no problem. You have to remember your clients. It's very intimidating to go into a horse paddock with that many horses and they're running all around you, and they're trying to get their horse, who happens to be the most timid, and the dominant horses are pushing and being in front, and you have clients that are learning horsemanship. It's kind of an accident waiting to happen. I think also you have less control of herd management when you don't have a lot of options to move horses, when horses are getting picked on a lot, or they're just not getting along. Because the truth is, you can have a huge area, but if you have 2 horses that are just not getting along, they'll fight it out no matter what. Even if you have them on 5 acres, they will fight it out. And so I feel the best thing to do is to have a lot of paddocks with a lot of options for moving horses so that you can get them into a herd where they all get along really well. And then once they get along well, you just don't move them. You keep them there. They are happy. They do really well, because you're going to have personalities all the way across the spectrum, from timid to very dominant, and even aggressive sometimes. So you want to find a nice mix in there where the horses, sometimes you can't put 2 extremely dominant horses together because they will fight until one of them gets hurt. So you have to have another option for them. And then of course you throw in the mares and the geldings in there. Um, so as size recommendations, it depends on how much land you have, will depend on your sizes. So our paddocks are about, I think they're about 130 or 140 by 140, just for the paddock, not the pasture. The pasture is another part. And so we have like 4 horses or 5 or 3 in each of those groups, and it's plenty of room. It's plenty. We have one herd that's 6, and there's still plenty of room for them, and they get along great. Um, I wouldn't go any smaller with 6 horses than what we have right now, but that's what we have. And it depends on your layout and how much room you have, and that'll make a big difference. So that's kind of my thought on it. If you're going to board horses, think of your clients, because not all your clients feel comfortable going into a herd of horses. And if you have 15 horses, it can be really scary for them. So if you have less horses, it's not so intimidating, because then they can shoo away a few of the horses to get to their horse. So always picture your clients and think of them, because you want them to grow and learn horsemanship. And if they're scared to get their horse out, it's an accident waiting to happen. So, and do I have time for one more?
It's 7:26. Yeah.
Okay, now this one is a good one. I definitely wanted to talk about this one. Um, okay, is it the barn manager's job to manage the boarders? I've had an issue with my barn manager, and I'm afraid to ask questions, and it's usually met with vagueness or punitive actions, i.e. my stall isn't for fresh, strong ammonia odor. Also difficulties getting info on how many days my horse has received their antibiotics. Poor communication. Um, who's supposed to be taking care of who here? I've been at this barn for 7 years. So this is a boarder writing this question. I've been here for 7 years. And the reason I'm kind of reading it and skimming over is because I want to keep this anonymous. So I don't want anybody to know what's going on. I've been here for 7 years. And I'm kind of sad. I don't want to move. But the barn manager, I don't feel is doing the job they should. And they're not following through. My horse was supposed to get antibiotics, and she can't remember how many days the horse had antibiotics. In this situation with the barn manager, from reading this letter, the barn manager is not, I don't feel, is doing their job. I would be very upset if I had hired them to be my barn manager and they couldn't keep track of the antibiotics. There should be a list there. There should be a sign. There should be documentation. But what I would do if I was the boarder is, if there's a problem like this, I would go to the barn owner, if you can, whoever owns the barn, and say, look, this is what's going on. I'm concerned. The unfortunate truth is, and this is the part that sometimes happens, is if the barn owner, it does not care what's going on, and the barn manager doesn't care, then that might be all the signs for you to move your horse. It's just, you can't change a barn manager if no one's going to encourage her to change, as far as the barn owner, because she works for the barn owner. She's getting paid from the barn owner. Now, if she's the barn owner and the barn manager, then it might be time for you to go and just find a different place. Especially if it's a problem like follow through, or you feel like little things are being done because you ask questions and there's kind of harbored, I don't know, what would that be, harbored, like feelings, ill feelings towards each other, then there might be some other things going on there. If you've tried to talk about it and it's not working out, then sometimes you have to just say goodbye and find a place for your horse that's safe, and you're just going to get the care you want. It happens sometimes, and there's not much you can do about it. It sucks. It just sucks. But yes, that you might have to move. You shouldn't have to babysit the barn manager, and they should not have to babysit the boarders. But here it sounds like there's other issues that I don't know about. So I'm just saying it might be time to say it's time to leave and move your horse. So
we have one more follow-up question on something we already talked about
Okay.
just a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
What about kids getting the horses out? Some parents send their kids out to a pasture of 15 plus horses so they can learn how to get the horse. I think that's also accident waiting to
Yeah.
happen.
I'm just curious on how old the kids are. So the way I do it here is people will ask me what is the age that a child can be left alone at a stable. And first of all, you can't give an exact age because you can't say a 16-year-old, because if a 16-year-old is a brand new horse owner and they know absolutely zero, then they should not be there alone. Or if the 16-year-old, the parents bought the horse, a horse that is too much horse for the 16-year-old to handle, then no, they shouldn't be there alone. But if you have a 15-year-old who's been riding for 3 years, they have a completely broke pony who's safe. They are safe. Their parents are on top of things. They know what's going on, and you feel comfortable. Then, so it depends on the kids, but ultimately, as the barn owner or the barn manager, you call the shots. So if you see an accident waiting to happen, then you have every right to say to the parents they cannot go get that horse by themselves. And it depends on each child, and you know what their knowledge level is and the horses. So when you have a herd that's that big, obviously it's even more intense, but accidents can happen with 4 horses or 5 horses, especially if they're all coming up at you. We've had kids that have parents have bought the wrong horse for them, and the horse is just way too much. They're scared to go out and get the horse. We've had other parents that have dropped their kids off when the kid should not have been dropped off, and then I have to call the parent and say to them, your child is too young and too inexperienced, and a parent needs to be there with them, because the truth is I'm not babysitting, and it's not my job to babysit, and it's an accident waiting to happen. It is. So ultimately, I think a lot of it has to do with the knowledge of the kid, how mature the kid is. I think is a big part of it, because some kids are more mature and don't take chances and are smart with how they do things, and then some of them, they should never be left alone ever. Never. So you're gonna have to kind of call each shot. So I don't do an age. I look at each child differently, and I would definitely, you have every right to talk to the parent, and if the parent doesn't like it, then it's time to say goodbye and say, then you can't board here, and those are the rules. You run the show there, and you decide if that child should be there alone, by themselves with the horse, especially going out to getting. And yeah, it is an accident waiting to happen. We did have someone. Well, they were a young adult years ago that got hurt out in a paddock and had to go to the hospital because 2 horses were kicking at each other, and they got kicked in the middle. They were kind of in the middle of all of it, and they had to go. And they were actually, at that time, they were like 20 years old, and they still got hurt. And they're okay, but I'm just saying, they have more knowledge and they still got hurt. Think of someone who's 15 years old who has no clue, and they have no clue how much damage a horse can do and how they can hurt you. So yeah, you call the shots. Might have to do some calling to the parents and say you cannot drop your child off here, or if they're going to go out to get the horse in the paddock, they need to be with the child, with them out there to get the horse. And if they don't like it, it's okay to say then you'll have to go to a different stable, and because you need to have your sanity and you need to make sure everything is safe, and it's not worth the stress. So I hope that answers your question, and I think we're done. Yeah, that was a quick hour. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a really fast hour. Great questions, a lot of good topics. Don't forget, I'll create a live event next Monday night. It's all about equine insurance with Debbie Treadwell. And you get to talk to her. She's going to be live with me, and you can ask her any questions you have. It'll be super fun. And I want to wish you a wonderful week. And also check out probarnmanagement.com. If you're at all thinking about coming to the workshop, check it out. It's worth every penny. I guarantee you, you're gonna learn a lot, laugh a lot, and meet a lot of other people that are doing the same thing you're doing. A lot of great conversation. And have a wonderful week. God bless you. And thank you. And we'll see you next Monday night.